welcome to 13 and 1, the talk show that's like a game show. I'm your host, Francis Veltri, and we are excited for another thrilling special episode. This is a special episode of the U.S. presidential election post wrap-up, post how are we going to deal with this situation. This is a special episode, and when we have special episodes, I want to make sure you know I feel special, you should feel special, our guests should feel special, so we're all special here. The other thing is, just as you know, this is 13 and 1, and I do need you to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, wherever they are. I think they're down there somewhere. And yeah, thank you. And that's our guest. We have our guest here. Very excited. Hey, Kyle, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why I asked you to be on the show on our special U.S. president post-election?
Right, because I'm special.
Yes,
I certainly feel special. Thank you for that intro. So my name's Kyle. I know Francis. I'm with Disposable Theater, doing improv comedy throughout Northwest Indiana. But I think the real reason you invited me for this special episode is because as a day job, I am actually a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Indiana. So I am a legitimate therapist.
This is the way for me to get a cheap hour of therapy.
That's exactly.
Because I don't pay you, you don't pay me.
No.
But you know what? You have to see what my copay is.
I would have to see what your copay was. Yeah, that would be good. Although maybe I should bill you for this hour. Does it pay for talk shows? I don't know.
Bill America. Bill America.
Perfect.
We have the money now.
Got it.
We have the money now.
Okay.
Get it in cash or Bitcoin.
Perfect.
All right. So, Kyle, I don't know if you've seen. I don't think you've seen the show. I don't think I've seen the show. But the rules are 13 questions I'm going to ask you, and then you get to ask me one question. I don't know. I mean, you know why I picked 13 and 1 as the title?
Because you're unlucky? I have no idea.
No, because it was the domain name I could secure with a .com.
So one was too popular. 14 and 1 already had hits.
No, and I couldn't find a lesser number. I couldn't get like 9 and 1. Somebody has that. So, yeah, so that's why we got to struggle through 13 MF questions.
You can't afford a good domain name. You can't afford to pay me. Jeez, this is this.
And my soundboard is my phone. So yeah, this is like a soup can and a string show. That's what.
You know what though? When you were a kid, did you not like do that? Where you would like try that and then get mad when it didn't work? So it's all good.
Yeah, we actually did it with styrofoam cups though.
Oh, that's a good way to do it.
I don't know if that worked well, but we thought it was cool.
Supposedly, if you get your cell phone and you put it in the cup, it'll like act as some sort of a speaker.
Oh, that's true.
That's
true. I bet you that's true. See, look, you're giving us counseling answers and also mechanical engineering answers.
I do my best.
Or is that acoustic engineering? I think that would be acoustic engineering.
It can be whatever you want it to be, Francis.
See, you're such a good counselor. That's why you're on the 13-1 U.S. presidential post wrap-up special.
Special.
Okay, first question. And this is like a two-part first question.
Okay.
Is alcohol the answer? What's that?
Wouldn't that be 14 and 1?
No, because I'm running the show.
Perfect.
Okay. Is alcohol the answer? And if it isn't, is it the question?
I don't know that it's the answer. I think, just like anything else, when it comes to drinking and alcohol,
and the presidential election
and presidential elections, right? There's always the disclaimer, of course, people are going to have wine when they're watching the results, absolutely. But
that's fine because the polls are closed. Here in Indiana, you are not allowed to buy alcohol while the polls are open. But they don't really know that. I went to the local grocery store the morning of the election after I had voted. Right. And I was like, oh, I think I'd like to get a little 6-pack of beer to, kind of as I'm watching the election. And and then I was like, oh wait, I can't buy this. And then I had to ask people in the group, can I buy this? Not like random strangers, people that worked there.
I like the idea of you going up to the people on the street. Can I buy this? As you're like walking out with a beer you haven't paid for. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's, remember when you were under 21? Maybe I don't know if you did this, Kyle, but I did, where you would be with a group of friends and somehow you'd have to try to find somebody over 21 to buy you beer.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to admit to this, Kyle.
No, I was a goody two shoes as a kid, and I actually legitimately did not. And I'm not saying this because I'm on the air. And
No.
Drink until I was 21 because I was like so afraid of being in trouble that I, just didn't even do that route.
I think that I know you, but people watching this YouTube might not know you are a goody, and you would never lie. You would never lie. Exactly. So we can safely say an answer to number one is alcohol is not the answer.
No, I mean alcohol. It's just like anything else, I mean, it's because the thing is, especially with everything going on, the issue's still going to be there after you're done drinking, right?
Right. Is alcohol? It is depressant.
Correct.
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 And so it's probably going to make things worse for you ultimately.
Yeah,
the next day.
Different people, respond to it differently, of course. But either if you're hungover or whatnot, depending on how much wine or beer, or if you drank that whole 6-pack in an hour or whatever the case is. But there's the potential for for that, and again, it's the problems are still going to be there. So I certainly understand a celebratory and the party and all that stuff, but I think just in general. When alcohol becomes the go-to solution, it just doesn't really.
And I guess that what I should say, and I'm going to put an asterisk on that. And again, it's not the partying. Like if your guy wins clearly, or woman, not trying to, wins clearly, sure, revel in the good times. I think in this situation, because this is the U.S. presidential 2020 post wrap up, we still don't know who's won, and it is 4 days later.
Right.
No, if you're a binge drinker and you've been doing that, that's a whole other issue.
Right.
What I'm talking about is people who may be saying, maybe I should start drinking and not stop until we have a president, because it could be some time.
Right. I mean, as they're talking about recounts, and like you said, it's 4 days. We still don't have the ideas of what's going on. So I don't think alcohol is the answer, because that's that's a long binge to go for 4 days.
That's a lot of money.
Well, that too. I mean, and we know that money is a top priority.
Yeah, here in this show, 2020, we have none. We have none. So, okay. So, okay. Let me ask you this. This is question number 2.
Okay.
Does talking to someone about this help?
Yes, I think in general it does. I think,
and again, I'm talking about the election and the post-election uncertainty. That's really all these questions is the overtone.
Yeah, I figured that.
But so you can also say generally too. But if you could, what do you think?
Yeah, well, and generally, talking about it helps, because I think a lot of people are, just have anxiety because, like you said, it's a big question that's been 4 days unanswered, and so I think a lot of folks, they have those worries, they have those concerns kind of circling in their head. And when you have that in your head, you tend to dwell on it. So I think having the conversations and the discussions about it is helpful to get them out. Now, my asterisk to that is it's very easy when you have something that's giving you stress, giving you something anxiety, to stew on it.
Right.
And so I think it's healthy to talk about. I don't think it's healthy if every conversation you have for the next week is talking about the election, or every hour you're checking your phone and have they updated yet? Has Nevada come in yet? Has Pennsylvania come in yet? Has
every hour? I think we're talking every minute.
Right. Well, that's exactly.
If I was down to checking every hour, I wouldn't have you on my show.
Right. And
I'd be like, "Whoo, I'm dealing with this well."
And I'm a licensed therapist. I'm still in between sessions going, "Oh, okay, do we have an update yet?" And so, we know this, but I think continually, it's like, the idea that, it's unfortunately, it's going to happen when it's going to happen, and figure out when it's going to happen,
And it's not going to be even over then. Whether the loser has a good chance or not,
right?
It's not the question in regard to, there's still going to be, we know there's going to be litigation
Right.
after this.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely. As often is the case with
right.
elections, close in votes, and
Sure.
like in 2000
And,
and all that. Yeah.
and I'm not going to, and again, I didn't begrudge people to investigate whatever happened after the last, the Russian collusion. And I think, sure, I think we should always, in a democracy,
Mhm.
look at and pursue, any concern as far as legally. Now, again, I'm not talking, once the avenues of resort are exhausted,
Right.
I'm just saying I don't I think that's why we have a legal system. I do, as opposed to anybody else seemingly, believe in the legal system, and that means you have to prove your case. If you prove it, you prove it. If you don't, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. There's reality, and then there's a legal reality. Two different things. People don't seem to understand.
Well, you have to understand, Francis. You have extensive knowledge and training within the legal system, and so for you, the inside of a courtroom or a legal process, you know how these work. You have a lot of knowledge about that, and
I've
so
gotten my butt handed to me. I know how it works. Yes.
right, right, that's one way to look at it. I think a lot of the fear and the anxiety is they say, oh, a president or a challenger or whatever it is, say they're going to sue, and what does that mean? What is
Right.
their ability to do that? And the loss, what that means, what that process would look like. For a lot of people, that's very scary.
Well, and again, I since I don't deal in election law,
Right,
I mean, I don't, but in general, I get the concepts
right.
of what we're dealing with, and I've had cases brought by other people, other attorneys, other plaintiffs that are ludicrous, but you still have to deal with them.
Of course.
I mean, that's just the nature of the system.
Right.
I mean, then people are like, oh, why can't we do the frivolous claim? There's a pretty broad, and again, I'm just talking very generally here. There's a broad definition of what a not frivolous claim. Oh, I have to double, but you know what I mean, of a claim that would be not frivolous. What that would be. So, whatever. But like I said, this show is about helping people understand, not just I don't want to, we're not going to get into the the aspects of, oh well, Trump's going to do this or Biden's got to do this.
No, not at all.
No, this is about Joe and Jane Public, Q Public.
Am I Jane or am I Joe?
No, you are Counselor Kyle,
Fair enough.
helping us get through this situation.
But I think the short answer to question number 2 is yes, it's good to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because you're not alone. Everyone's really going through this, but also to remember that there is a point of what you can do, and so still finding things that give you joy. You're not hurting anybody by not spending all your time on the.
Well, this is question number 3.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of answered this, but I just want to kind of go over this.
Yeah.
How, through the part that's going to happen probably next, which is the inevitable litigation. How do I, as I'm watching, how do I handle that? Mm-hmm. So not as an attorney, but as a person, knowing I really have no real, ability to be involved, but it does affect my life to a degree.
And I think that's one of the biggest stressors that people can go through. And a lot of anxiety comes about when someone's life is affected by something that's beyond their control. Right? Because there's this idea that we want to do something. If we know what the problem is, what can we do? And what action steps can we take to resolve something? And the unfortunate reality is I think for the general populace, everything that we could do, we did as of Tuesday.
Right.
And sure, you can always do the actions, right to the senators, representatives, all those things. At the same time, for this immediate process, there's not a whole lot we can do, and so there's an element of acceptance. Sometimes we talk about in the therapy world something called mindfulness, which is kind of being aware of the present, being aware of your thoughts, and kind of letting them, existing with them. Anxiety is really difficult, I think, for a lot of folks, and worry and stress and all these things, because we tend to focus on it, and it's uncomfortable, and it's very difficult to kind of just sit with that and acknowledge that, hey, this is something I care about, this is something I was passionate about,
Hmm.
and that's why I'm having um, the response that I'm having, and the reaction I'm having, and it's difficult to kind of let that go and just be, this is something that's really important to me, and I'm going to remember this. Unfortunately, at this point in the process, there's not a lot I can do, and so to just be aware of those thoughts, and take a deep breath, and then do what you have to do for the day, or do something that brings you joy, or whatever that looks like for you.
Now, should at this point, this is question number 4. Should we do more things at this point to take care of ourselves, as opposed? So while we're thinking externally, maybe be more
Yeah,
internal.
yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it, and um, to take care of yourselves, and what brings you joy, what kind of brings you peace. um, because the other part to remember in all this is there's very natural, in any election,
Right.
when especially one where we don't have the results right away, to have a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry about that. But the environmental climate right now is just very bizarre as well, just with the pandemic and everything with that. And so I think what's happening to a lot of folks is that some of the things that kind of bring you joy and kind of help reset you, and that you're able to do, aren't necessarily accessible because things are closed, or they're limited capacity, or it's just not safe or comfortable doing them. And so I think finding ways that's not just about this outlet of politics, but also, hey, what can I do to kind of bring me peace, or what can I do to kind of exist in we might not be able to control the election, but maybe you can control, going for a walk, or spending more time outside, or looking into something new, or something along those avenues.
Or being outside looking in your neighbor's window.
I mean, whatever you do to occupy your time, Francis, is
That's how I unwind. That's how
I
I unwind.
I suppose when you have knowledge of the legal system, you can get yourself out of anything. So you're able to, whatever works for you.
It
I
was
will not
that
be doing
guy.
that. I will not be doing that.
Yeah,
Um, because just like you can't afford me, I can't afford you. So,
sure.
it kind of is a
No,
mutual
I understand.
situation.
Now, it's funny, this dawned on me.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2020 has been the crappiest year, I think, in my memory.
Oh, I haven't noticed.
Right, but it
Yeah.
took. And so we've gone through all these things. We've had this big COVID situation,
Yeah.
and it took a hotly contested presidential election to actually make us go, "Oh yeah, there's that COVID thing." We literally have forgotten about this pandemic. I mean,
Which,
that tells you how shitty this year was,
right.
that you could actually forget about a pandemic because something actually goes, wait a minute, I'm gonna one up this.
So when I'm working, in my practice, the analogy I like to use kind of ties back to the old Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner Looney Tunes cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in terms of
You
this,
using a Warner Brothers cartoon as an analogy is not surprising whatsoever.
no, yeah, no, right, I'm all about weird analogies. And so when we talk about stress, think of it like, how Wile E. Coyote would have the stick of dynamite, right, and he have the fuse with the
Yeah.
bombs, the dynamite, and our stress tolerance is like the rope, right? And as we have different things occur, um, the rope gets shorter and shorter, right? So we a lot of people don't have access to their family in the same capacity, right? Or things like that, and so or they don't have that, or their work is more stressful because, hey, there's a whole lot more that you have to do, or increased workload or decreased workload, and so the fuse gets shorter and shorter, and so you know this election, it would be stressful, I think, in any circumstance, but like you were saying, when we have all these other things going on, the fuse is shorter, so we get to the ignition point a lot quicker.
Right.
um, and so the mindfulness, the kind of being in control of ourselves, and kind of managing our thoughts, is less about what do I have to do to stop the explosion, more so how do I extend my fuse to kind of be able to tolerate everything that's going on.
Right. Right. Yeah, I need to extend my fuse about 30 yards.
I think we all do.
But I'm I'm the coyote sitting there trying to light the match and it won't
Right.
light until it's like, or I'm blowing it, trying to blow it out because
Right.
So I'm constantly in the slapstick portion of it. I just love that in my life. I also have that music like wah 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 wah.
Right.
So that's always good for me. Um. All right. So okay. This is question number 5, I believe.
Okay.
This is a big one.
Okay.
Will life go on?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes. Life.
I'm talking about after this whole litigate. Will life go on?
Life will go on. Life. It's hard to see the end when you have something that's so encompassing of your life
Mm-hmm.
and so just overwhelming. It's hard to see past that.
Mm-hmm.
But life will go on.
Yeah.
Things will get figured out, things will work out, and the only direction to move is forward.
Should I be so it's wrong of me to go with the whole Jim Morrison no one gets out of here alive.
Francis, you and I both know I don't know that reference.
Right, I'm sorry. I don't think the audience knows that you were actually born in a test tube. Born at the current age and current whatever you are.
I'm not actually born in a test tube. It's just a known joke among Disposable Theater that I have a lot of random knowledge in a lot of certain areas, and then sort of pop culture or kind of older pop culture references are just over my bald head. So
Your pop culture references begin in 2010.
a little bit earlier than that.
Okay, that's when you came out of the test.
At least 2009. Like, let's
Okay,
be real
all
here.
right, all right. So that's when your pop knowledge starts, which is like that is not that gives you like 11 years of pop. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. The only thing that we've concluded either A, there are some illegal Kyle votes out there, or Kyle is a clone or a test tube baby.
I mean, I kind of like this idea, that maybe there's clones of me somewhere.
There's like 5,000 Kyles all
I
over.
will say, have you noticed that like skinny bald guys all look very similar? All I'm saying.
No, it is true. It is true. I can't tell you how many times I've gone up to other Kyles,
Right.
and they're like, "My name's not Kyle." So it is kind of embarrassing. But yeah, and also just so people watching, we are constantly emailing Kyle
This is true.
pictures of other visually similar individuals to Kyle.
It started out as a joke.
Yeah.
That, oh, hey Kyle, this person kind of looks like you, and then it happened enough times that it became a trend that's kind of disturbing almost.
Yeah, it's the skin tone, it's the lack of hair, it's the glasses.
Right.
It is, they did not break the mold when they made they liked it so much they made more.
Yes.
But you know what? Again, financially, it probably makes sense.
And as we know, finances is what it's all about. The cheaper the better.
Exactly. So, okay, this is question number 6.
Okay.
This is a very important question, I think. What do you do for those family members that may have expressed support for the other side before the election, now that we're in the post-election continuing uncertainty, and then even after a winner too? So this is 6 and 7. So I'm going to break it down as 2 questions.
Okay.
What do you do now for somebody during this uncertainty time? And then when somebody wins, because we don't know who's going to win. We have an idea, but poop happens.
It's not 100%.
No. So if it goes the other way, hey, whatever. But what do you do in both those scenarios? So this is 6 and 7.
All right. So it's always an interesting. I think that the election happens in early November, and then we have Thanksgiving at the end of November. So there's always every election. There's always that. Oh man, this Thanksgiving Day table is going to be rough. And I think it's a difficult situation because, you love your family, but as things continue become, contested and conflictual, it's difficult to say, oh, this person, supports the other candidate, or this person has views that are radically different than mine, and I think there's an element of finding, middle ground, or it's an element of, hey, what are the topics that we can and can't talk about,
Mhm.
and I think there's an element on, regardless of the political affiliation, of, hey, this other person, there's this myth that the other person is bad, and sure, there's a lot of, you know, different reasons people have their different beliefs, and a lot of it may be like, hey, I feel very strongly this way, and this person legitimately does have misinformation for these other beliefs. I think for a family, it's important to remember to just understand that and know that, well, by calling them a wrong or a hateful or an evil person, that that just isn't going to help your family relationship with them, and that's not going to help them kind of recognize your point of view.
Is there a
um,
way that it's sort of like almost like how we discuss religion in a way. Again, American, and I'm going to ask you about
yeah,
how foreigners or other people from other countries, look at what we're doing. But
well,
in America, everybody feels the right to express their political opinion,
right.
and but I think that there's that line which is even if they're absolutely wrong,
Hmm.
absolutely you 100%, that's still their opinion and they can have it. I mean, I think we lose that when you have like Facebook and Twitter, and again, they're within their rights. I'm not saying they're wrong, but when they censor things, again, I think that, and again, I'm not getting into the whole legal freedom of speech
Right.
versus it's their platform. That's not my intent here, but I think we're losing sight of the, you have a right to have an opinion. You can be wrong. That's all right. Nobody should hate you for being wrong. Nobody should hate you for being right. It's just it's an opinion,
I
and
think,
and you should express it freely.
and I think one of the unfortunate dynamics of the current climate has been less about the opinion and more about the person. And if you believe these certain things, or you identify with this particular group, that you're a bad person. And I
Right.
think when you look at it intrinsically, um, then it does create a lot of conflict.
Right.
And so I think there's now, I do understand, if someone has a very, very extreme point of view that says, oh, this group of people should be, executed or whatever,
Right.
whatever, I just say that as an example. That is, I certainly understand, very, very difficult. Um, but there's the idea of, okay, this is your family. Um, you know, they, like you said, they have an opinion, and they have a right to be wrong. Is it to the point that it's really disrupting your relationship with them? And if it is, maybe there's an element of a conversation that needs to happen about, hey, what can we talk about, what can we not talk about? Because that's one thing that doesn't happen anymore as much either, I don't think. Is, yes, people have opinions, right, and they have the right to be wrong, but there's this element of, okay, are we allowed to fight fair, or can we agree to disagree, or accept who we are because of who we are in each other's lives, and how do we kind of get through that?
I think you have to go with we just agree to disagree and move on.
Yeah.
I think that in if okay, let's say my let's say my father has an opinion that I disagree with,
Sure.
and I know that he disagrees with it. I don't need to change him. I do need to enjoy my time with him.
Right. Or, in some cases with families, hey, we can at least kind of get through if it's
But
something very.
it shouldn't be it shouldn't I think we should just respect everybody's right to have an opinion.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean you have to express it all the time.
Right.
If I'm straight
Right.
and I want to hold my wife's hand and I love her, doesn't mean I have to do sexual things to her in front of everybody all the time. Sometimes it's okay.
There are so many jokes here that I am not going to make right now.
No, no. What I'm saying is, obviously, just because I can do something doesn't mean I need to do it all the time.
Mhm.
It's not infringing on your right. It's
Yeah.
sort of like I would almost liken it to you can't yell fire in a movie theater.
Sure. Absolutely. And I think
There's a safety factor there.
Absolutely. And I think
Thanksgiving, another safety factor is if you know Uncle Bob has differing opinions than you, don't poke the bear. Or if he starts it, say, "Hey, Uncle Bob, I love you, bro, but let's move on." Or just shut up and let him go, and then make fun of him on the car ride home.
right. I mean, any of those are fine. I'm all about coping skills like that. And I think ideally it's, hey, if we have a supportive enough family, we can have that conversation. That's one way to do it. If you've got to make, hey, we've got Uncle Bob who has their radical beliefs, and we just all need to play Uncle Bob bingo, then sometimes you gotta play Uncle Bob bingo, right?
Exactly. Make it here. You know what? I think we've just solved a new problem, and this is what we need to do.
Right.
Don't make fun of him to his face. Don't get into it. Do it on the car ride home, or play Uncle Bob bingo.
Right.
Or like, how fast will it take before Uncle Bob says something inappropriate?
Right. Well, I think when we say Uncle Bob bingo, right, which I'm totally a fan of, by the way,
Sure.
um, it's the idea of, let's approach the problem in a different way rather than fighting because we know it's just going to be another Thanksgiving Day fight. Let's do something that is in your control. Let's do something that puts some humor to it, or feel supportive of it, or whatever it is, so that we're not focused on, oh, I'm going to get into a fight with Uncle Bob. Because you know what, if you go into Thanksgiving dinner with the belief you're going to get into a fight with Uncle Bob, then you're going to get into a fight with Uncle Bob.
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, again, do I want to? If I'm like cousin Francis, all right, let's say I'm cousin Francis, I do want to see that fight between Uncle Bob and Uncle Bill. I want to see that.
Okay.
I am living for the whole. I'm like praying at Thanksgiving, during the first football game. Oh, please get into a fight, please. But besides my joy,
so don't poke the bear. Just wait for cousin Francis to poke the bear, is what you're saying here.
well, I would like to believe that's not true. That's true.
Well, that's something to bring up, is that when you're someone is very passionate about something. Sure, sometimes it is fun to see that argument. At the same time, is that really cohesive for the family? Is that really cohesive for everyone involved?
Sure.
And probably not.
I mean,
and also I think going into the Thanksgiving or the family, knowing, hey, maybe this person likes to stir the pot a little bit, and how do I kind of avoid that, and how do I kind of do what I need to do to kind of avoid getting baited into that trap.
Right. Kyle, we can still hear you, but you've frozen on my screen. So we'll just continue on as long as you're talking. Or not. Uh-oh, we've lost Kyle. Oh no, we've lost Kyle. He's coming back. I feel there he is. We've got Kyle back.
Internet issues, as one does in these calls.
Yes, that's good. But no, I think you make a great point, and I will take your advice that not to poke Uncle Bob.
Yes,
do that.
Uncle Bob bingo.
And I think that so what about so I think that answers the question.
Okay.
So and so we're gonna go to question 8, and it kind of dovetails with where we are. We're gonna go a little bit further.
Sure.
When we do know the results, and we know there's going to be 70 million or more people upset.
Okay.
Right? I mean, we can assume that one way or the other.
Right.
What are the steps of acceptance?
So, it's interesting that you bring that up, because when you hear the steps of acceptance, that oftentimes is with the stages of grief. And there is an element, I think when we talk about the stages of grief, right, we think of, when we lose a family member, we lose a loved one, we lose someone very close to us. But they can be lost in other ways. It can be a loss of lifestyle. It can be a loss of what's familiar. It can be a loss of whatever that is. And so the in terms of the classic stages of grief, it goes, and in no particular order. And sometimes people go, and I don't say this because I don't remember the order. It's that people experience the order differently.
Damn! I thought I was trying to get you there.
Gotcha. They messed up the clone in the lab.
I've got the wrong Kyle clone.
I got the wrong. That was mixed with the sulfur, not the phosphorus.
What are you doing that? Why wait? Do I have the wrong Kyle clone? What's going on?
Did we just get dubbed? I'm not sure what happened. So the 5 stages are denial, um, anger, depression, bargaining, and acceptance.
Whew! I thought I might have put you on the spot there, Kyle. Thank you. Okay, good.
No. So
Kyle's
those
smart,
are the 5 stages. And so I think part of acceptance is to, you're not going to be able to, everyone is not going to be able to accept right away. And if there is that stages of loss that you're going through, it's okay to be sad and angry and I can't believe this. And this is all very, very natural for the process. I think when you talk about the stages and trying to get to the place of acceptance, it's understanding that, everyone, that individuals might be going through that and appreciating that, but then also not, like we talked kind of very, very early on in one of the early questions about it's good to talk about it. It's not helpful to dwell on it. And to think about that, talk to people who are like-minded than you and are different minded than you, to help with that, to share how you're feeling, but also not to function in a vacuum, and remember that life will go on. And if you're not excited about the new normal, that's okay, because life will go on, and the new normal, you'll be able to adjust to that. It isn't necessarily an overnight transition.
Will there be ultimately a new normal? I mean, will we always have new normal? Because it seems like it's been a thing that we've thrown. And this is question number 9.
Oh, hey.
Well,
Sure.
so will we always have new normals? I mean, it's just is that part of our modern society where things change so rapidly? Okay. And again, I'm going to do a little preface to this question, to give you some time to think too. So back and again, it's easy for us looking back, but in the Middle Ages, I would think that life progressed more slowly.
Oh, sure.
That it might take every generation may have been an incremental change, and maybe in the beginning of the 20th century, you would have maybe every generation or maybe a couple of changes in a generation, maybe. But now I clearly think, and I guess maybe presidential elections are a good way to come up with every 4. I mean, we do have changes, significant changes in our society at a rapid rate. Probably, I would say something like akin to like 5 or 6 times in a in 20 years, which is the idea for a generation. I mean, I was watching The Wire.
Yes.
And it's from and I just watched it recently, and it's filmed in 2005 or somewhere about that time, maybe even earlier. Maybe it was 2002 because it was after the 9/11, but somewhere in that time period. And how different even life was then.
Oh, yeah.
In regard to the use of cell phones, in regard to use of different technologies, where they felt like always the need to say, this is a smartphone.
Right.
They didn't have the concepts, and life was, obviously different, and you don't realize it. I watch a lot of old movies, and, I see how, life was different in the 1930s and 40s, and, it just, again, how much rapid change there's been since then to now. And then you just look at watching a show like The Wire, which was filmed 15 years ago, and say, wow, life really has changed even in that 15 years a number of times. I mean, we've gone through, if you look at the early 2001, we went through so much. So how do we get used to, my question is essentially, do we have to get used to new normals? Every 4 or 5 years, something. Is that something? I mean, are we going to see that kind of rapid change in our society?
I mean, that's hard to predict. I think it's like you had said, it's much more than just presidential elections every 4 to 5 years. Like you had said, with the technology advances, the world is so much different, right? And when you look at, like you said, the Middle Ages or ancient Rome or all these different cultures, they didn't have the same level of technological advances. Even
or at the rate we did.
Right, the way we did, and the current generation growing up does. just with technologies and the internet and all these things that 30, 40 years ago wasn't daily life, and now it is. And because of all those advances, we do see change occurring, I think, at a much more rapid rate. And I think something to remember is that it's natural to be afraid of what we don't know, and it's natural to be afraid of the unknown, and especially in an ever developing, ever changing society. Um, there's a natural fear there. Um, I often tell, in a general sense, I often tell clients that a lot of anxiety comes from living in the future, right? So because think about it, when you're anxious, you're worried about, or with stress and or with whatever it is, you're worried what's going to happen in the future, right? What is going to happen? Am I going to be in a worse place later than I am now? Or am I going to get that promotion? Or what's going to happen if I find out that I don't get it? Or what's going to happen if I fail that test? And what's that going to do? Or what are my consequences going to be? Am I going to be in a very negative situation? And when you focus on the future and changes that might be good or bad, you tend to increase your worry, you tend to increase your stress level. So what I often advocate is to try and live in the present. I call it living in the present, because in the present moment, that's when you have control. You can't control the future, right? But you can control what you do in the present, and what you focus on in the present. And so if change happens, I mean, change is inevitable, right? Because of technologies, because of the ever adapting of society. So and that's okay. You know, it's nothing is ever really the same, and it's learning, I think, to be able to accept that, and that goes right back to the acceptance, that goes right back to those other concepts.
Well, this is great advice. I just want to let you know that I either live in the past, pretending I have a time machine that transports me back to 1935,
Oh, sure.
or I have a fantasy where I live in the far flung future.
Hmm.
So I am really screwed with your advice. I got to figure out how to live for today.
Right. Well, it's hard to do that, because naturally we want to, and it's always good to prepare for the future,
Yeah.
right? I mean, if someone is like, how many times do we tell high school kids, do your homework, because if you don't, what's going to happen? And we want to prepare for the future.
I'm still
But
doing homework from high school.
I still get the. Do you still get the math? Like, I failed math class dreams, because I still get those.
All the time. All the
Right?
time. All the time.
We have like four college advanced degrees between the two of us, right? We've
Right.
been out of college, any sort of academic situation in,
Right.
in how many years, and yet we both still have the
And I
same.
have a diploma from Second City finishing the writing program. I want to let
Oh,
you
but
get a diploma for that.
well, that's a little bit different, though, right?
But that's still an advanced degree.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, so okay, five. We have five advanced degrees, because Francis is a clearly a Second City um, author.
No, I know all because I shelled out the cash and time.
Okay,
That's
so
why I have no money.
I understood. It all went to Second City,
Yeah, absolutely.
and now I understand they have no money. So
Yeah, right. Right. If you want to buy an improv, I understand the price of Second City is somewhere between $5,000 and $20,000, so somewhere in there. Anyway, that's
sure.
an inside joke. Only people from Disposable Theater will get that joke.
Right.
But anyway, so and that we do this for us. We don't do this for anybody else.
No, I mean, right? I had a high school teacher once tell me it doesn't matter if people think that I'm funny, because I think I'm funny. So
Right.
as long as we think we're funny, that's all that matters.
Now, let me ask you this. We're going to kind of little Kyle question here.
Okay.
Because this is still the U.S. presidential special post-election.
And I'm special, as we have
But
established.
this is a joke. What type of anxiety dream do you have from either high school? What recurring dream would you feel okay sharing with us about homework or not knowing lines for a show? What kind of fearful anxiety does your subconscious constantly play in your mind to make you feel like a piece of excrement?
I think I've had all those dreams at some point.
Yeah, don't you love when they all kind of get into one dream? I'm in a high school play production. I
Yeah, I've had
don't
that
know
before.
my lines, and I've got somebody pregnant.
I have not had that one.
Okay,
That is one I have not had.
It was a
one.
test,
You
Kyle.
forget a line, or you forget your homework, or you didn't do that, or I think that I've actually had the dream. I haven't had it in a while, but like where I have a full head of hair.
Like a chia pet. The way you did that made it seem like it was
Yeah.
a chia pet head.
Well, like, most people be like, "Oh my gosh, I had this dream, this terrible dream. I woke up bald." Do bald people ever wake up and are afraid they have hair? Yes, yes, we do. That is.
Now, what do you do in that dream? Like, do you like, hey? I mean, or
I
do you
think it was
like,
more confusion. I think there was one point when I was like in my early 20s or teens or something. I woke up with it. I just woke up and was, oh, thank God.
That's awesome. That's a great question. Kyle, that is a great question. To bald people. That's
I mean,
great.
at least this bald guy does. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
well,
know. But
so you've had all those dreams, though.
yeah, absolutely. I think the thing with dreams. All right, we'll do a brief
Brief Kyle history of dreams and what they mean.
No, not a history of dreams. But the way dreams work is it's our brain's way of synchronizing information. So for those who don't know, when you dream, it occurs during what is called REM sleep, rapid eye movement. Yeah. And the brain.
They always show that in movies and TV. They show the person sleep and their eyes are moving back and forth. I don't even know how.
They're moving back and forth.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the brain there's a lot of activation and brain activity going on. It's almost, science is kind of out on why that happens. But one of the common theories is that it's the brain synchronizing all the information it learned during the day. And so, but because there's all this brain activity going on, the brain's like, well, this doesn't make any sense. Why is this happening? And so the brain kind of creates a narrative to kind of make sense of all the activation, and that narrative is the dream. So a lot of times, if you have a central theme during your week or during your day, that will seep into your dreams, and that's why you have those dreams. Otherwise, they're just nonsense because of the random activation. So, there are some schools and therapists who do a lot of dream analysis and interpretation. I'm not one that has background in that. But the way I always look at it is, when you have a dream, is there some sort of parallel or significance? And other times it's not, oh my gosh, I have a dream, I need to worry about this. It sometimes it really is just a byproduct of the stimulation that occurs in the brain during REM sleep.
And I just want to say that in my extensive study of dreams, I believe that you're actually transported to an alternate reality where that is reality and we are living in a dream. So there's also that thought out there as well.
Right.
That I just came up.
I mean, it's out there because you said it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It exists in the dream world.
Right.
This is the dream world. And then there's like a little top that I look at and I'm thinking, which world am I in?
Right. I think Francis watches a little too many Leonardo DiCaprio movies.
Maybe.
But, other than that, see, I do know references. I've seen Inception. Reverse card, Francis.
I can't believe you've seen Inception.
Why?
All right. Okay, number 11. This is question number 11. Okay. So hopefully people who may not understand the American presidential election system are watching this. Maybe they're bored, they're in Ireland, they're like, what the hell are those Americans doing? So my question is, Kyle, how would you describe the emotional involvement? And again, I'm not talking the system, how it works, but why Americans are emotionally involved in the American U.S. presidential election to people in other countries who probably are involved in their own governing systems in their own way. But what is in your experience what is uniquely American and the way we get emotionally involved?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it comes down to when someone has a lot of anxiety and worry and these things. It comes from a place of compassion, right? If you don't care about something, you don't worry about it, right? If you're like, oh, this doesn't bother me, then there's no anxiety there. And so when someone is anxious about something, it comes from a place of caring.
So let me add this. Right now, we have like 150 plus a million Americans, 150 million plus Americans that have voted for president. And so, I mean, there are a lot of people that care.
Absolutely.
And that's a good thing. And to sit there and shit talk the other side, and I'm going to say shit talk because it does bug me that and I'm talking either side. I think that what in Kyle, I do want you to go back to this question, but I just felt at this moment to say this
It's
is
your show. Go for it.
it is my show. And remember, this show is about me. It's not really about you, Kyle. It's
Right. The myth is that I'm the special one. You're the special one, Francis.
That's true. That's true. No, I think that I think that it's safe to say that really when people, I would say the majority of those 150 million votes really want Americans left and right to work together.
Right.
I don't think they don't want one side to be alienated over the other. I think they want to find a compromise.
Absolutely.
And I think that, I think that's why, when the pendulum swings far left or far right, that's why it happens, because the people in the middle go, well, we tried the left for a while. Let's try the right. Maybe they'll do it. Or maybe then it goes the other way. Hey, maybe we should try it. So you're going to have this pendulum swing. Instead, maybe we just need to all sort of say, hey, calm down, people on the ends. Let's find the middle ground. Maybe we do something about climate change, but let's not say, let's do it today. Maybe we do something about, that doesn't radically scare people. Not just about climate, but everything. Maybe we talk about gun laws and try to come to something that's a little bit more middle of the road. And as and I know that there's constitutional issues you have to deal with, and I get that. I'm just saying, and maybe I'm more on a soapbox here, but I just think that we need to respect everybody. And you may not agree with them, but you should respect them.
Absolutely. And I think you bring up a point that everyone wants peace. Everyone wants unity. I think maybe for whatever reason, I know lots of people have different opinions on that. Is it goes kind of back to the Thanksgiving Day argument of how do you do that? Because I think everyone wants peace, everyone wants unity, like I had said. I think maybe a lot of folks don't know how to handle when someone is so radically different.
Right.
And in some ways that's very much, oh my gosh, this person is against who I am, this person is against what I believe in, and that can certainly be very challenging.
Sure.
And so I think what we're seeing at the Thanksgiving Day table happens in a macro sense of, oh, this person is the opposite of me, and therefore they're wrong or they're evil. And I think there's a lot of places, be it the media, be it politicians, that kind of encourage that idea that this person is um, is wrong or is against you, right? And vote for the other guy, or vote for
Right.
me because the other guy is gonna stick it to you.
Right.
And you have to remember that everyone the reason we're in this situation, everyone has passions, everyone cares, and okay, so if we don't see eye to eye, even if we don't see eye to eye in a big way, um, you know, arguing about it like and telling people that they're wrong and they're evil is not going to bring about peace. And so it's about, hey, what can I, how can I control my actions to, even if I fully disagree with this person, even if they are, a radical on one side or the other,
Right.
um, you know,
Well,
promote that.
you've kind of bled into question number 12, and I'm
Okay.
still going to say it. So,
Okay.
how would you suggest that the U.S. people make up? So, when I would make up with old girlfriends, and that's the
Yeah.
only thing I have to go by in comparing this, is I would like and make up, maybe break up, try to get back together with. I'm gonna use them. I would come up with like reasons why they should date me again, or reasons why I was wrong. Now, some of those things I did plan to do.
Sure.
Okay, some of those things I knew that they just wanted to hear.
Sure.
Okay, but I did try to change.
Sure.
So, and again, in this situation, can we make up, and how do we do that with the 70, 80 million other Americans who had a different, and again, I don't think, and I'm giving you more time here, I don't think saying they're racists, I don't want to deal with them. I don't think that's the right way to do it. Or they want to take my guns away, I don't want to deal with them. I don't think that's the right way to handle this. And again, I'm not trying to be all mushy kumbaya. I'm just saying we got to figure this out.
Right. And so I think there's research that has found that if you are more likely to listen to the other person first, then they are more likely to listen to you. Um, which
Unless
suggests
you're in a debate. with Donald Trump.
Well, but okay, even in the debate, that's part of the thing is we that highlights the idea that we're listening to argue, right? And when we're arguing, we're not listening to understand the other person. We're listening to prove them wrong. And in a debate, that's the format.
Right.
That's the goal. There's also an acknowledgement of this is the debate, and this is not how we're going, and an argument, or this is how we're going to kind of bleed into everything, and that gets that gets very much blurred. So I think there's an element of, okay, rather than just calling someone a racist or they're going to take my guns away, why does the other person believe that? And maybe that can be part of the conversation, because humans are not, this is kind of an interesting paradigm. We're really not hardwired to try and find truth. We're hardwired to be right. And there's an element in psychology called cognitive dissonance. And that is when we get information that is contrary to our previously held beliefs. And it's a very uncomfortable situation for the brain to be in. And so when we find this, there's a couple ways we can handle it. We can either change our beliefs, but man, that is hard to do, right? Get this new information, change your beliefs. We can dismiss the other information as, oh, this is erroneous, this is false, this is fake, this is whatever. Or we can kind of make a subcategory of, oh, well, I have this belief, but this particular subset is different because of X, Y, and Z, or whatever it is. We cannot change our beliefs to everything. That would be too exhausting. So these paradigms exist for functional reasons, right?
Right.
It's hard for a lot of people, and some of this might be because it's very easy to, go to the internet to reinforce your beliefs, or I have challenging beliefs, so I'm just going to go back to my church or my college campus or my Facebook page or wherever it is that the individual, your beliefs are going to be kind of held in a vacuum. And I think that's one of the reasons we don't necessarily know how to debate and have discussions with people different anymore. Is it's we don't get practice with that, or we don't come at it with, okay, I want to actually have a conversation with this person that maybe has some beliefs that don't make sense, and we'll talk about that rather than going with you're taking the guns, rather than you're a racist, to have that, but to listen first. And if you listen first, I think then that could really bring about some different results.
See, I think that people don't understand compromise.
Mm-hmm.
Compromise does not mean you will accept what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Compromise, or you only have to accept some of what I believe,
Mm-hmm.
or most of what I believe. Compromise is that you and I may have differing beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
but somewhere in there is is something we can each live with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that what people make a mistake in that you might, and just picking one, I think one of the more divisive situations, which is global climate change, because it's so like man-made versus not man-made. But there are things in there that on each side that you can say are good, of that are beneficial to everybody. Whether it's making sure the water's clean, or whether making sure people have, employment, things like that.
The idea of working together, and rather than, oh, this person, is opposed to me and I have to fight them at every opportunity, saying, okay, so this is where I want to go with this. This is the opposition I'm receiving. So how can I kind of find a way to still make some progress, in the place of this, rather than having
right.
This,
so how do I move? So how do we move the ball forward for our society in general, without just saying you must succumb to my will?
Right.
Is that the right word? Succumb? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Succumb to my will, and I'm gonna force you. I mean, granted, we live in a whole like sadomasochistic society where that's what we want to do, but we really shouldn't do that. We should really, be more, more generous than that. But I think that, and I don't know. I mean, we sit there and say, oh, it's, wasn't like this before. I don't know. I don't know if that's really true. I mean, 150, 70 years ago, there was a civil war. People really did have different opinions.
There's an
they
element
fought
of
a war.
Information, so we see it on a more macro scale than we could before.
Sure. Sure.
and that information is more readily available, and we kind of have to navigate that, or that instant gratification of being able to seek out and these beliefs, and because of that, we're in that part where we have these worldviews that are challenged or whatnot. It's very uncomfortable, and sometimes it's no, I do believe this, and this is why I believe this, and that only makes your belief stronger. But rather than I have to really think of my beliefs of this is why this information is erroneous, this is why um, maybe I need to amend my thought process. We're able to just kind of seek out someone that, oh no, you're right, and we don't have to face that anxiety of changing our views as easily, and sometimes that's a good thing, right? And sometimes it's not a good thing to have that instant relief.
Well, okay, so this is your question number 13.
Yeah,
Last question. We're there. We're
we're
almost
there.
done.
13 questions. All right.
Okay, so here it is. Okay, and this is kind of I'm kind of going off my script here. I do that all the time anyway.
No,
Um,
you off script?
I know. I don't even
Bullshit.
know my lines. Um, do you know how many times people bring that up in the show that I'm really bad at memorizing lines? Almost every episode, Kyle. It is,
I didn't bring it up. You brought it up. Just
yeah, I'm
saying.
a confessor. Okay, so so we've dealt with how we need to come together as a people. We need to be a cohesive society. Not saying diversity is bad, but we still have to
No,
have
this is great.
a general, this is how we need to compromise so everybody can kind of get with the program. We don't need to beat each other up. But the last one is, what do you do if you have, and I'm sure there are people who voted for Trump that regretted it before. What do you do if the person you voted for wins and then you have buyer's regret, or even if you lose, you lost. Let's say you voted for whoever loses this election,
Yeah.
and you regret that you voted for the loser, saying, "Oh, he let me down," or "She let me down," whatever. How do you deal with regret?
Sure. I think
This is also good for me in general. There's
sure.
a
Well,
lot of regret.
so we talked about a little bit about how anxiety is living in the future, right? I think regret is living in the past,
Ah,
which is also why you want to live in the present, right? So it goes kind of both ways.
wow.
Um, you know, sometimes people make mistakes or we get new information. When we make a decision where you have to trust, I think that typically you're making the best decision with the information you have at the time. Now, it's always easy to look back and oh, I can't believe I didn't see these dots connected, or
Mhm.
hey, I voted or I didn't vote for this person, and seeing the way things played out, I wish I would have done that differently. Well, you didn't have that information at the time, so I think there's an element of letting go of that control and using that to say, okay, well, I know this now, so now I'm going to vote, this way, or hey, I voted this way in 2016, for example. So in 2020, I wanted to make sure I vote this way, or hey, I vote this way in 2020. Maybe in 2024, I'll continue with this pattern, or I'll do this, or whatever it is. But it's letting it be a learning opportunity, and I think letting yourself have the opportunity, to learn and to change. Because like we were kind of got in our tangent, how change is hard. It's okay if you change. You're not a bad person.
Right.
Um, you just have to. Maybe there's just an element of accepting that. Hey, I didn't like what I went with, and using that information so that you can know that you're making different choices in the future based off of that.
And on that side, let me just say the other thing is, when you chastise somebody for making the vote in this example, or a choice that you disagree with, doesn't mean that you, like, the thing that keeps popping in my mind is when John Leguizamo, the
Mhm.
actor who played Spawn,
Yeah,
I knew you'd get that reference.
I know.
um uh when he was like, I hate all Florida now because they voted for Trump. And again, I don't, this is the other side of regret, which is sort of like, just because somebody doesn't have regret doesn't mean you should also, like, like, oh, well, if they have regret, then I can forgive them, or whatever, or for whatever they did. But I don't think you have to have regret either to be forgiven. I mean, you don't have to even be forgiven. They just have a difference of opinion.
Right. Well, it goes back to the idea of acceptance.
Right.
There's the idea of okay, so someone voted for someone different than me, and they are passionate about that. Where does that passion come from? Because my passion comes from this place, and
Right.
understand that. And if that is altering your opinion, that's fine. But it goes to the idea of hey, how do I accept this person for who they are, or at least acknowledge what I don't have control over, or acknowledge what they're going to be to heal. Because when you hold on to the anger, that's really just hurting you. The people in Florida, that's not. They're not too worried. Well, some of them might be worried about. I wouldn't want Spawn mad at me. I'm just saying that would probably not end well. But most of them are not concerned about what Spawn thinks about their pieces, and so there's
And
not.
how dare he, after creating that craptastic piece of Spawn dung, say anything about anybody else? I mean, I just think that that's amazingly lack of insight on his own person.
And tune in next week, next episode, where Francis gets murdered by Spawn on live feed.
On post-election special 2. What are you gonna do
Spawn
next?
snaps your neck.
Yeah.
But there's an idea of if you when you hold on to that anger, it's not affecting them, and it's not productive for them. And sure, anger, use that anger, productively in terms of voting a certain way, or being part of an advocacy group, or things like that. But if it's not in your control,
Right.
then it's just not healthy. It's just not helpful.
Well, you did it. You made it,
I
Kyle. You
did.
did
I did
13
know
questions. Now, guess what? This is the part where you, after having gone through the 13th degree,
Mhm.
get to ask me one question. It can be any question. Can be on the topic. Doesn't have to be. It can be any question other than like stuff that people wouldn't even care about. So
Right. So
I don't care.
So I've been thinking about this one, and I think the one I want to ask is going to be on brand because I feel like that's appropriate. So I'm interested to hear your point of view, because in addition to hosting this show, you're also a parent, right? And you're apparently on the show. But I'm interested to hear from a parent's point of view, kind of what are you seeing with some of the younger generation, kind of how they deal with stress, and how as a parent are you helping them while you're dealing with your own gray hairs?
Well,
I
yeah,
know that.
exactly. Yeah, that's a great question because it is so. Again, we talked about how society has changed. It
Mhm.
is so. I mean, I'm sure it's different for you, Kyle, than when you deal with younger patients
Sure.
or what do you call them?
Typically, I refer to the people who come see me as clients.
Clients. Is they live in a different world than you are familiar with.
Mhm.
Certainly, for me, being older than you,
Right.
I would say that that knowing what I know, there is so much that's different now. Different, whether it's and again, the easy ones: internet, social media.
Right.
But I think it's even the way kids interact with each other,
Oh.
and also how much stress there is regarding academics and doing well. And in here in Indiana, and I think a lot of states are similar to this, how they do the whole, testing. There's a lot of testing.
Oh yeah.
Whether here in Indiana we have iStep, but I'm sure other states do something similar where they're constantly testing children to see how the teachers are doing,
Hmm.
and in whether they're meeting some sort of proficiency levels.
Hmm.
So with all that, I think that children, in regard to stress, they have a lot of stress, whether it's academic stress, whether it's social stress, and I don't know if they have the same avenues that we had, which are good and bad. I don't think because they don't interact the same way. They
No, they don't with all the online and the remote interactions, and especially right now, I think that's exactly the a very safe way to be interacting. But even before that, I think a lot of that was set up, and rather than hey, I'm going to bike to my friend's house, it's we're going to both hop on the Xbox at our remote locations
right,
and kind of interact that way.
right. Um, you know, whenever my daughter, let's say she's up in her room, if you had a if in my day, if you had a kid that was in her room solely, you'd be sitting there. I'd be calling somebody like you, Kyle,
Right.
30, 40 years ago. Hey, my daughter's in her room all the time,
Oh,
and I'm worried that she has no friends, and that's not the way it works. I mean,
no.
just because the way they interact, they actually prefer to interact with each other differently,
Yeah.
mostly online. It's funny because when she sees somebody she knows out in public, they're more like, like
Right.
they just barely acknowledge each other.
Right.
But when they and again, I'm talking like not like a good friend, but somebody they know.
Right. Like a
They'll be like,
classmate
"Hey,"
or whatnot.
but they'll have an in-depth conversation online,
Mhm.
but like socially it's just different. That's why I think eventually we're going to lose the power of speech and we're all going to be using mental telepathy.
I would love the telepathy. All I need is a wheelchair, and I'm already there.
So with regard to yeah,
Give you a minute for that one.
another white guy stealing your thunder, that you look alike, another Kyle alike.
Hello, Eric.
Yeah, and then you've got the beast wheeling you around in a wheelchair.
Yeah. Right. Right.
um, so no, I think that the thing is that they have different stresses. I don't know. I mean, I think that the typical stresses, which is social, there's academic. I think that the uncertainty of the future, which it's funny because when you're a kid, you tend to think the world is your oyster kind of thing in so many ways, and then
Well, in a lot of ways, it is.
yeah, sure, absolutely, and then also at the same point, dealing with the inevitable failures that come with growing up, or not just failures, but stuff that I mean, it's sort of like I'm going to ask it this way:
Yeah.
if you could go back and visit Kyle, young Kyle at any age,
Yeah.
what would you go back and what Kyle would you go back and visit, and what would you tell him? What kind of advice would you give?
Ooh,
What kind of advice would Kyle need?
um. See, I'd probably go back and say buy a wig. No, I'm kidding.
By what?
Buy a wig. No.
No, you should say go buy some Bitcoin for $1.
That's exactly what I would do.
Go
That's
buy some
exactly what I would
Bitcoin
do,
for
right?
$1.
That's 100%, right? When
That is like if I had a fantasy.
Bitcoin.
If I had a fantasy, that's one of them. It is not naked women. It's me buying Bitcoin when it was $1 and selling it when
Oh, absolutely.
that's like my
Absolutely.
fantasy.
That's better than anything I can come up with, right?
I would buy like how much Bitcoin would I would buy like 2,000 Bitcoins and then sell them at when it was like 18,000
Yeah, like
Bitcoin.
make thousands. But no, I think the more serious answer is, and this is where you're getting at, is not to worry about the little stuff. That test doesn't matter as much as you think it does, right?
Yeah.
Or we there's so much the pressures of, oh, I have to achieve this certain level, and you know life goes on, and maybe you won't get to that exact school you want, or maybe you don't get that exact part in that play or whatever it is, or that on your team you're not starting or whatever it is. But sometimes we go through stuff and we learn from it, and that's okay. And so maybe not to stress as much about things when they maybe take a left turn or they go a different direction.
Right, right. And it doesn't mean, especially at that age, doesn't mean that dream is over or that desire is over.
Right.
Like in let's just say it as an example, I know people who, thought they wanted to go to like Harvard as an example.
Yeah.
They don't go, but that doesn't mean they didn't become a lawyer or a doctor
Right.
or a failure
And it
because
doesn't
they went to Harvard.
and it doesn't mean that by changing your goals that you gave up on them.
Right.
You just had different priorities that resulted in different experiences, and that's okay to adjust your priorities. You're not a failure by going a different route.
Right, and there's always other paths too. So,
Absolutely.
and I think that again, that's what we need to do as Americans. Let's find the other path.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Let's get that path that puts us all together, not the one that keeps spreading out like in 15 million different directions, and then trying to swing back one way or the other. But anyway, Kyle, that was a good that was a good question.
Thanks.
Damn, I could do a whole episode on that.
There you go.
So, Kyle, we'll have to have you. You're going to be our regular counselor, helping us through these difficult times. I mean, literally right now, if 2021
Yeah.
is like 2020, I could probably have you on at least once a month, at least.
Probably. But I think it comes down to learning, learning from this past year, so that it's not like that. So that we're able to use the knowledge of this year to have a better 2021. Because you know what they say, hindsight is 2020.
Yes, and we all want to put 2020 in our hindsight.
No kidding.
Well, anyway, Kyle, thanks for doing the show.
Yeah,
You were awesome. I think everybody's going to be better for this. And hey, let's just keep on trucking, and let's just remember that we're all Americans. And if you're not American, you're watching this, thank you. And remember to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit Kyle if you want, tap him a little bit.
I might oppose to violence against me, but if you want to,
There's no reason for violence. We didn't even get to that part. Maybe we'll have to have a whole violence episode. Top 13 questions about violence. There you go. We already have special episode number 2. We're going to be working on it. We're got it. So anyway, music. This is the music, my outro music by Charlie Fleming. So hey, remember, come back. New episode every week. More people. Kyle will be back soon. Thank you again. This is 13 and 1. I'm Francis Veltri. Thank you, Kyle. Have a good day.